And on the seventh day, Lars, our Genjisus, finished his work that he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. So Lars blessed the seventh day and sacrificed it, because in it he had rested from all his work which Genjisus created and made. This is more than just a Genji guide. Fear not, child, for you have come to the right place. I will cleanse you from this plebeian bronze filth. You will come to see the light, and I will make you holy again. So one day, you will rise the ranked ladder and transform into the Genji god of which you have always been destined to become. Jokes aside, welcome to the Genji Bible. This is the most comprehensive Genji-related guide on the platform. You can binge the whole series at once, or pick which of the video series you would like to see to further your Genji skills, all condensed in a playlist on my channel for your viewing pleasure. And speaking of my channel, I'm kind of new to this YouTube gig, and I've realized that only 3% of my total viewers are actually subscribed to the channel. Yeah, I know you've heard that a million times, but I promise you that you will get higher frequency and higher quality uploads if I can turn YouTube into a full-time thing. And the closer I get to 1K subs, as well as liking and hitting the notification bell to know when I upload next, the closer we can game the algorithm and make it in this world. It's a simple exchange. Genji knowledge for you, and dinner and shelter for me. So, let's make it happen. Anyways, on to the video. I am better than proper. I am better than proper. Zero is my student. Genji, our great king, and oh, didn't see you there. That's right. The second part of the Bible. Combos, right? Let me look at my script here, and okay. Left-click dash, used for stationary targets, sleeping targets, Ana or Widow scoped in, tracking a player moving in a straight line, then dashing their feet, or where they're about to path to, etc. This combo can be replaced by a far more advanced raw dash into one-shot combo, but only if you're confident in your execution, and that you will land the headshot melee follow-up. With the left click to chip down the enemy before dashing, usually triple headshot into dash will kill. If it doesn't, you can delay the dash follow-up a little bit, so that you can act immediately out of left-click dash. Whereas normally, if you did the combo as fast as possible, you would incur an internal cooldown that delays the follow-up combo by about a second. Right-click dash. This is your primary engagement combo versus squishier targets, and also a good way to burst people down on entry for further right-click follow-up. Use this against low mobility heroes like Hitscans in the 1v1, to get as much damage off as possible before you die. Versus heroes with more mobility like Tracer or Echo, you'll want to save this combo for when you can guarantee you get the hit. Or recall. Since it's risky, and you'll be without dash for 8 seconds against characters with higher mobility and outplay potential in the 1v1 than you. At any point you can choose to dash during right click's animation, and you can spread multiple right clicks to whittle the opponent down before you eventually dash. Mainly used to get the enemy player low enough to die to the follow-up combo after dash. Note that you can execute what's called a floor dash, where you get the damage of the dash instantly when on top of an opponent, by dashing onto their feet into the floor. This is good for 1v1s, since you can chain damage combos together, while staying on top of the enemy, for the sustain trade, and you get to act out quickly. Use this in conjunction with double jump, or wall climb, to be extra slippery when 1v1ing, while still dealing good burst damage. Right-click deflect, and dash deflect. When going in with your initial combo, you end it early by casting deflect. This is a high-level mix-up against players that will shoot into you, attempting to combo them. You'll see this a lot versus Cassidy players casting High Noon, as a way to bait them into shooting Deflect, since they think you're going to continue shooting them, or that you don't have Deflect, since you haven't casted it out of fear of getting killed yet, as well as games of chicken with the enemy Widowmaker occasionally. However, outside of 1v1s, it's rare that you will use it, since it's typically better to weave in as many right clicks as you can before doing so. Blade combos. When engaging with a blade directly on top of people, you can do your basic combo, and cast the blade at any point during the combo. You can right click after dash into blade, or add a melee on top of that into blade. You can also deflect into blade, but you have to be careful since deflect will obviously be on cooldown, and most of the time you'd rather have it during the blade to extend the trade, and so that you aren't forced to only swing and back off when needed. Speaking of that, blade swing into deflect can extend your trade, or allow you to disengage if the blade targets aren't safe to kill, or using counter ultimates against you, like Beat, Nano, or Transcendence. Remember that all these combos are breakpoint dependent, meaning the amount of damage that they do are meant to reach a kill threshold against the enemy player, and do just enough damage to secure the kill, and continue your chain of dash resets. Amplification abilities like Bat Window, Nano, Discord, or Mercy's Pocket can allow you to dash one shot essentially guaranteed, even if they get healing during the combo duration. This is why sometimes even without Blade, just nanoing a Genji for space creation and retaking control of tempo is a solid play, since his kill combos become that much more potent with both the damage buff and the damage mitigation buff and healing for him, of which Nano provides. When executing a Blade, you need to think about a couple of things before using the ability to maximize the chance of you getting a high value Blade in the form of kills, space, or cooldowns. First, you need to be in a good position to justify using the ult, since even though it's the super cool anime warlord animation, and you feel really nice using it, you're still a squishy 250 HP DPS character at the end of the day. You can pop like a balloon in situations where you don't have any amplification ability, Nano, and all of that stuff. So, if you don't have the support of a Juno Ray, an Ana Nano, Lucio Beat, etc., so we can ult with 1000 effective HP, or even another tanker DPS to take some of the visual aggro we talked about in episode 1 away from you, to execute it safely, a safety net in Blade if you will. You're going to want to use Blade to win 1v1 or 2v1 situations at most instead. Any other kills or cooldown that come from it are just extra on top of it. Genji players seem to be attached to this whole Necros Blade culture that is hyperfixated on flashy combos and mechanics, but the reality of this character is that those plays are possible maybe 5% of the time. You should be blading, and where the ability would be good to use, and this ultimate's value can often be quite indirect. So what do I mean by indirect? Well, that's the second factor that makes a good blade. You come across a lot of situations where the opponent has a response for your blade. This can be in the form of a backline trade where they ignore the Genji and opt to kill your team when you go in to kill theirs. And typically, a tanker DPS duo, or trio, going on your supports, will get more value than you just going in alone, which again, is where you having a team comes in. Also, ultimates like Lucio Beat, Zen Transcendence, a defensive Ana Nano, all these abilities that can make blading difficult, but here's the funny part. These abilities are honestly a lot stronger than Blade, and players tend to isolate Genji Blade and only think of it within a vacuum. Just because your Blade got countered by these abilities doesn't mean it was a bad trade in the grand scheme of things. If you think about the bigger picture, these abilities being used for your Blade means they don't get to use it at their own timing or tempo, and allows your team to use their ults at their own leisure. But besides that, we can also signify the importance of calling out enemy ultimates and planning out a fight properly in the event where we do need ult to carry. In this way, successful blades are more often than not determined by the thought process and fight planning of the blade, rather than any crazy execution with it. If we look at this clip from Sugarfree's Genji, he's looking to recontest with PGE dead and his team down players, but he isn't expecting to get much out of this blade from a kills perspective. He sees that this Kiriko is low, and pops blade, but not before the enemy Lucio responds with an ult of his own. Using some quick execution, he bursts the Kiri down with slash dash, which was enough to get a reset off, and Lucio is able to keep himself alive, but without his Ramatra currently present in the fight, there isn't a consistent way to fight off Lenny's blade, before eventually bleeding out to the consistent slash value, whittling down the beat. Now he's forced to retreat, giving up the point, and without beat, it's a lot harder for this Ramontra to justify pushing into Lenny's team with point control, especially when his other support is still dead, where going in here with a resource deficit could lead into a full team stagger. Now let's watch this Blade by Proper, one of, if not the best Korean Genji on the OWCS circuit. Blade doesn't have to kill many players to be valuable to your team, and I think Genji players need to understand that a successful Blade is in the details, rather than what's on the kill feed. Sure, there are way better Blades than this, but as a community, Genji mains need to realize that as long as we don't blow every ult in the game to only kill like one guy, we are going to kill anyways. The Blade is an ability that is far more useful for resource trades, like getting cooldowns, rather than an ability that is going to kill 5 every fight, so don't have super high expectations every time you pull it out. We see Proper on the cart leading up to the final fight on Eichenwald's second point. With the enemy team pushed out into the spawn room, and without much time left on the clock for a recontest, the enemy team is forced to fight their way out of the doorway, and can only realistically come out of one of two spots here, either the left or the right door. This means the win condition for Proper's team, assuming the enemy team doesn't have ultimates, is to use Blade specifically to stuff out these doorways, and deny the enemy DPS and support angles to shoot Proper's team from, eventually getting kills or bleeding out resources to win this crucial OT fight. Now if we look at what Proper is poking here, he notices the Kiriko on the right doorway getting chunked by spam, and she TPs away to the other side of the doors, as well as Stalker's Genji looking to harass through the middle doorway with wall climb, and potentially threaten a touch. Knowing that the majority of the enemy team is hovering around the left side of the doorway now, coupled with his Doomfist taking a little bit of visual aggro in space on the left alongside him, Proper now feels justified to Blade on the doorway, since the conditions for a good flank play have been met, those being predictable locations, cooldowns, or team giving you visual aggro, as well as being ready to follow up on you for the play. Proper likely wouldn't have bladed in this way had he not known the enemy team was going to group up in this little area, making close range AoE slashes with Blade that much deadlier. Nor would he have done it if he didn't know his team was willing to detract a bit of attention away from him, so he wouldn't have to outplay so many people at once. And now that the Blade is popped, we can really start to see where being a patient player while executing a Blade can be the difference between a feed and an outplay. Proper is seeing that Ana has used Sleep Dart, which allows him to greed on this first swing here, but notice the discipline in that he doesn't try to finish off the kill, and instead takes the damage he can get with a slash dash in order to avoid Ana's nade, which could mess up the entire execution of this Blade and get him killed. Next, he goes for this easy follow-up swing on the Kiriko, and after killing her, instead of swinging again, flashes a Deflect to outplay the next ability that will be thrown at him in Cass's nade, which outlines a clear game plan on Proper's execution, in that outplaying whatever the enemy team uses in response to the Blade is a more consistent play than overly relying on 180 dashes or high mechanics to overcome the situation. He then dashes back to Ana with Deflect still on her, to see if either her or Cassidy will shoot damage into the Ana, and make a swing follow-up more likely to kill her, and allow him to get a reset to salvage this aggressive 3v1 he's put himself in. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen, but his plan B to escape is to now kill the vulnerable Ana by going on to her next, which he succeeds in doing. Instead of escaping, he goes for the outplay and to bait out as much attention as possible for his team. He dies here, but not before getting an extra slash onto this Cassidy. And if this Blade was done in a Season 16 context with perks, the 100 healing he would have gotten from the meditation passive, coupled with the healing on slashes of Blade, Proper had a very realistic chance here of successfully 4v1ing on this Blade, since he played it so well. Now let's look at Proper again for the third factor towards a good Blade, which is exercising caution and patience during it. Now earlier we saw Proper's aggressive yet disciplined approach with the Blade the last time, but this Blade illustrates that passive-aggressive mindset towards Blades perfectly. You may have seen this clip before against Crazy Raccoons last year, but let's break it down to a thought process so we can better understand why this play worked in the way that it did. So Proper died here and is coming out of spawn a couple of percent away from Blade. The enemy Lucio just used beat, and Shu on the Juno recently used her ult, and is still another 50% away from getting it. This leaves Blade as the only ultimate on the side of Team Falcons, and gives Proper the chance to tank with Blade and use it as an engagement tool alongside his tank and DPS to push an advantage and gain space if not kills from it. He uses dash and right click on Heesang's Genji after seeing him overextend trying to kill his backline, which forces Heesang to back out. And this is the magic of Proper's Blade here. He sees the Orisa in the corner of his eye on the left, and with Genji dash already gone, the only thing left to outplay his Blade is the potential threat of an Orisa spear that could send Proper away and do half of his life, forcing him to either scrap the aggression entirely, or force to play with dash at an HP deficit, which could spell disaster for Falcon's push here and lose them the fight. Proper double jumps mid-air while pulling the blade, to not only bait Junkman into throwing the spear, but also to avoid it while still fighting the enemy team, and remaining in a position to get value out of this blade. Notice how he doesn't invest dash too early, because even though Hee-Sang has used dash, the main ability to displace the blade, and is forced to interact with this blade, he still has Deflect to mitigate the slash damage, and stall out his life as long as he possibly can, before dash comes back on cooldown, or his team has time to come up and help him to peel off this blade. Proper now waits a bit to see what Hee-Sang wants to do, realizes he's opted for Deflect, and dashes in to follow up, rather than earlier. Lip on the Tracer could have easily blinked away and put a clip into his back before he would have gotten the reset onto Hee-Sang, which is why exercising caution and waiting in the blade for enemy cooldowns is so important. And now that all of the hard stuff in the blade has been accomplished, and the win conditions have been met, in outplaying all of their cooldowns, it's time to be the hero we've read about in the scripture. That's going to be it for this entry in the Genji Bible series. Next time, we're going to go over the differences in playstyle, depending on the different maps in the game, and go super in-depth on team compositions, and what Genji is strong alongside, as well as what he's weak against. I'll see y'all in the next one. Remember to like and subscribe and all that stuff. See ya!